So basically, to break this down, I've been using the whole mode in order to get the maximum amount of electric range and the most efficient that I can think of gas range, and I've gotten 52.4. Now I'm going to test out to see what happens with mountain mode in regards to driving and charging using mountain mode while I'm actually cruising and seeing how much charge I can build up and how much that makes my miles per gallon drop as I drive. So let's see how that goes. So I'm sitting here and I'm in mountain mode right now. I'm cruising with cruise control on. Up to 57 miles. I had to stop here at the stoplight coming up. But anyway, right now the mountain mode is running and the engine is holding about 1500 RPM, around 2000 RPM, and the gas mileage has dropped down to 52.9. Just going to see how this continues to run as I continue to charge. I'm at 0, as you can see, and I'm using gas exclusively in order to build back up the charge. And if you can see that on the Wayland's camera, is at 22.7, 2800, 2900, almost 3000 RPM, and it's fluctuating between that, between like 1500 and 3000 RPM. And the gas mileage is dropping somewhat, but I'm really doing really well with the gas mileage for a while. So I anticipate it's still going to hold pretty high. I think the battery charges about 10 miles. It'll give you in range from 0 to where it's at now. So I'll see how it comes out once I get done with the charging process and what the gas mileage will be. Like I said, right now that's up to, I'm going uphill and uphill climbing at 2800 RPM, which is pretty high. That's going to definitely bring the gas mileage down, but it's not revving to 4000 RPM, anything higher than 3000 right now. So I'll update you in a few. So at idle, we're at stopped and it's at 1600 RPM. You see this charging, so stand by. So I want to get another quick update in here. Like it's at 50.1 miles per gallon, and right now I'm accelerating up to about close to 50, and I'm getting 2700 RPM, 2900 right around there. And right now I have one chunk. I guess it's not actually registered as mileage, as miles for the gas or electric range, as I'm using the gas motor to charge it. So it's not going to calculate the built up charge as in miles. It only builds it up in actual chunks, and it'll go to that red line there and it'll stop, and that's when the engine will turn off unless it needs to continue to keep it at that status levels. And it's basically for, you know, hill power, passing power, to keep the engine, if you know you're going to be in a very hilly terrain, but it also can be utilized to charge the battery up to that point. I believe the first generation Volt had a little bit more range you could receive through the mountain mode. I had to check on that, but I remember my last generation, the first generation Volt that I had, it was actually it would charge it to close to a quarter, I believe, a little over a quarter, before it would actually kick off and go back into like a hybrid serial mode. So let's see what happens here. Let's drop down to 49.2 instead of cruising at 2600 RPM. So here's another update here. Finally reached 2 chunks up to that red line, and as you can see, the gas motor is no longer running. I'm coming to a stop here. Sorry about the rumble strip there. I'm coming to a stop at the location I wanted to be at. The engine just kicked back in again, so it raised up and we're at 1600 RPM and 48.5. So we used about 5 miles per gallon in order to get it to this 2 chunk point, where I call them chunks, but to this point where the battery's actually been charged up. I'm gonna leave it running here, put it in park, leave it running. I'll come back to it and see where it's at, what the gas mileage is at once the engine reaches the desired point as it wants to be at for the mountain. So in conclusion, it looks like the miles per gallon dropped down to 46.1 miles per gallon, and it's showing both chunks full, but it doesn't show any electric range. It shows 0. I'm gonna test it out and just turn it off. Go ahead and reset it. Door, and start it back up again. So now it's showing 2 chunks of range with 7 miles. So it actually giving me a numerical mileage. I was at, I had almost all the chunks except for 1 of the fuel, and I dropped down to 1. And like I said, I probably burnt about 7 miles per gallon in order to get to the 7 miles of range. So it's, I guess it works in a sense if you need to get in the city and drive around a little bit and you wanted to drive all electric. I'm assuming you'd be able to recover some of that lost energy that you used trying to get in more battery range back into the battery pack. To see how mountain mode works, to see how it uses up the actual energy, gas energy versus and building up electric, and if this actually worth it or not. I have to do some calculations, math calculations, to see if it's actually worth it. So at this point, I'm not sure if mountain mode is really an efficient mode to use at all. I guess if you really did need that battery power for driving around town, I guess that'd be a good way to do, but just use whole mode. That's my conclusion. Thanks.